And now at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce Mr. Chuck Unruh, manager of the town of Clifton Forge.
Good evening, and it's good to be here. It's always good to come and address this group every month and share with you what's going on in town. Things are going to be a little bit different tonight in that I normally do a state of the town, if you will, update and discussion, but I thought it might be good for everybody who comes to these to maybe get a better feel and a better understanding of actually how your government and management of the town is set up, so that you have a feel for who you're talking to with each particular problem that you have. And we're going to address that and talk through that in just a few minutes. But the first thing I would like to do, we're very fortunate to have with us tonight a representative from the Thrasher Engineering Group. And they're an engineering group that's been working with the town for several years, and they're working on several big projects for us right now. The biggest of which is the Smith Creek water line replacement. And we've talked about this just about every month, but we're coming really close to it now to get it started. The RFPs have gone out, the pre-contractors bid meeting has been held, and the date for opening the bids of June 4th has been set. There's been a lot of interest. We actually had 8 contractors show up for the pre-bid meeting, and most of those have been back to walk the site and the path of the line since then to get a better feel for what they need in the way of subcontractors. This is a little bit over a $3 million job. This job is being completely funded from Virginia Department of Health money and ARPA money that we received in the original stipend in 2022. I'd like to introduce Randy Watson with us tonight. He's going to give you a more in-depth overview of the project from an engineer's point of view, and I think he is willing to take any questions that you might have. Randy?
Thank you, Chuck. As he says, I'm a project engineer with the Thrasher Group based out of Bridgeport, West Virginia. I'm actually filling in for the project engineer, Sarah Cook. She's a little better looking than me. Chris is a lot better looking than me, but I came down here to answer questions. I think I've been doing it 40 years as of 3 weeks ago. So to give you an overview of what we are doing, we are basically replacing a large diameter water line that is currently probably leaking and creating you to have a water loss in town. It's a line that was put in years and years ago that's probably seen its useful life. So we're going to replace it. It's a 20-inch diameter line and a 16-inch diameter line. It reduces down to 16 when we get closer to town. And that is the main feed line from your water treatment plant. And what the goal of that is to help reduce your water loss in your system. And as Chuck said, the bid opening is June 4th. I expect that construction would probably start around early August. And it is a rural job, and a rural replacement job. It involves a few new hydrants, some meter replacements, some new gate valves, and where the construction takes place, you know, people in town won't see that. You'll see some trucks and stuff go through every now and then. So it should be non-disruptive to stuff going on in town. I usually handle pretty good size jobs, and I've handled small ones. This is a perfect size that I like to do. I got to compliment you on your town. This is a beautiful town in my opinion, and you're very lucky to have stuff like this. And I think it's good that you all do this and let people know what's going on. A lot of towns I go to, nobody knows what's going on. So, it's a relatively simple job, so I'm going to stop there. If anyone has a question, I I'll attempt to answer it, and if I can't get you the answer that you wanted, I'll get it to Chuck, and Chuck will get it back to you. Does anyone have any questions about it? I will say the old line is an old cast iron line, and the new one will be an HDPE high-density polyethylene line, which is like a giant plastic line about that big around. So, no questions?
It's my understanding that we're leaving the old line in place to use as a backup, is that correct?
We are going to leave it in place, and we have that option to tie back into it to use it as a backup if we want to. The problem with doing that is, with it being a 20 or a 16-inch line, you'll have to put a gate valve in where you tie into it on both sides, and those gate valves are very expensive. They are a size gate valve that'll be probably $20-some thousand a piece. So we have to verse that initial investment up front if it's worth doing that to have that, or to just make that tie-in in the future if we have to.
Thank you.
I'm either real good at explaining it or no one cares.
I'm gonna go ahead and ask this question. Tell me like I'm a kindergartner. How does this work? Like you're moving, are you putting all new paving? Why? It's not, so you said it wasn't gonna be disruptive. Are people gonna be digging?
Yes.
Okay. And then it gets pushed through?
No, and that's a good question. You have an existing line that's in place now that's it's a feed to your whole town. And that line's getting old. So what you have to do is come in and, for lack of a better word, you parallel the existing line, you put your new line in. And then we make a temporary tie-in at the water plant, and then you flush that line to get any debris out of it, clear to the end, and then we pressure test it, and then we have to chlorinate it. And then once it passes through the Virginia Department of Health, it's okay. Then we can make the tie-in to where we were going to end it. And it's a process that you're keeping two different systems for a while there. You're putting two systems in service, and then you abandon the old one. And when you abandon the old one, that's when you see that all the leaks that you were having in that goes away and your system becomes tighter. And there's a few meters that'll be transferred over to the new line. People should experience a minimum disruptive service of maybe 30 minutes at the most, and we coordinate that with people. We don't just go up and rip it out. We tell them we're going to do it. It works good.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So right here, is there any risk of contaminating the current line in use, like disrupting sort of right alongside it?
The answer to that is yes. I mean, when you say contaminate, the only thing that could happen would be you might hit the existing line, and if we hit it and it's unavoidable to do that, and we did hit it, then what you would do, we got to fix it naturally. The city would probably issue a water advisory for a short period of time until we got that leak fixed and checked it out to make sure that there was no back tee in the line. And that's a good point. You know, this line is in there. It's been in there for years and years, so we don't know exactly the location of it at times. So we have to use the old witching method of two pieces of bent steel sometimes and try to find it. And the guys that work for me say I'm so old that I'm really good at that. So.
I respect the gentleman's comments about putting it in and then having a backup plan. I'm certainly hoping we don't invest in this and we'll ever need that backup pipeline again. But if you do put the new line in, are there any environmental issues with leaving the old line in, or is it just more expensive to remove it?
It is very expensive if you were going to remove it. Typically, when you replace a system, you just leave the old line in place. And if we were going to use that old line, if we want to keep it in there to possibly do that someday, we will probably go ahead and put a cap on each end of it to keep, say, animals and stuff from getting in it. But if we ever did want to use that for some reason, it has to be pressure tested and chlorinated again, just like the new line would be before we would ever put it into service.
In your many years of experience, have you ever had to where you had to go back and use the previous existing line?
No. No. I'll be around if you have any other questions.
Thank you, Randy.
Good.
And just for a point of reference, the line that is being replaced has been in the ground since around 1952, early 50s. This pipe that's going in the ground now will have a much longer life expectancy than what's there now. So this infrastructure repair will set future generations up to not have to deal with this once again. So that's a big positive step into the future.